And the National Weather Service confirms an EF3 tornado touched down in Johnson County last night. But what goes into making that determination? News 3's Paul Wilcoxon had the chance to shadow the team from the National Weather Service as they made their rounds today, and he gives us a look.
Derek Snyder is the lead meteorologist for the National Weather Service out of Paducah, Kentucky. His job is to assess damage left behind by a storm.
A lot of times what you should look for is the pattern of convergence where, the tornado is rotating. Usually they rotate counterclockwise. So you'll get a pattern where some trees are felled one way, others are felled, back opposite way.
Through his assessment, the National Weather Service put out a preliminary finding of an EF3 tornado with a peak wind of 140 miles per hour. But it wasn't until one particular find off of Highway 37 in Johnson County that pushed Snyder to conclude his decision.
A debarked tree is potentially, a higher end damage indicator than a tree that's been snapped or a tree that's been uprooted. So that would push the upper estimated winds up, I believe. It's just a matter of how much.
Up until that point, Snyder was convinced the tornado was going to be at least a high-end EF2. But finding the trees with the bark pulled off was a game changer for him.
That's literally like pelting the wood and pulling the bark off the tree trunk.
And Snyder says to do that, it takes winds that exceed 136 miles per hour. The low-end threshold needed to be an EF3 tornado. He also says other factors tell him how powerful the tornado was.
Power poles here, these are all snapped. So that's pretty significant. A tree might be uprooted at about 95-mile-an-hour winds, typically. But the power pole usually stops at about 115, 118.
Snyder has worked for the National Weather Service's Paducah office for 7 years, and he knows regardless of what scale he rates the tornado on, all damage is still personal.
Your home you can't live there anymore. I mean, that's obviously, it might not go down as the strongest tornado, but it's still devastating to you.
In Johnson County, Paul Wilcoxon, News 3.